The Hawaii Sports Radio Network on 95.1 FM and AM 760 presents Wake Up in the Den with Ku'ule Agbayani.
Good morning, beautiful people. Let's wake up in the den alongside Paul Brecht, Michael Lescaro. I'm Ku'ule Agbayani. Mahalo for tuning in on this Aloha Monday, and hope everybody had an amazing weekend, just like we did, and a very busy weekend at that, which we have a lot to get into today. We will definitely speak at nauseum, I feel like it's going to be, to recap the University of Hawaii football game at San Diego State, in which Hawaii fell 27-24. Very, very tough. You've heard us echo how many times that this is a must-win game. It's a can-win game, and shoulda, coulda, woulda, but at the end of the day, Hawaii did lose once again. Still only one win on the road under head coach Timmy Chang in the 2.5 seasons so far. So it was a tough one, and now Hawaii needs to turn around and focus on a nationally ranked Boise State coming up this week. But we will get to all of that, and we will also get into some University of Hawaii women's volleyball, because they came out with a couple of wins. Soccer also extended their win streak, so still a lot to talk about in the positive side of University of Hawaii sports, and definitely get into some other college football. There was kind of a big upset over the weekend. Something, there were videos that didn't go viral at all that made us known that there was a big upset in college football. So there's still a chance, everybody, with Hawaii and Boise State. There's that. There's also high school football to go over. A lot of big time games over the weekend that we could potentially see maybe shake up the Scoring Live Power Rankings this week. But we'll get to your high school football scores and other stuff in the NFL, and such as a local guy in Ka'imi Fairbairn having another big day in the NFL yesterday. But first, we still want to keep it positive. We'll get to Hawaii football in just a second, but want to talk about one of the other big events that happened over the weekend, and that with the LA Clippers and the Golden State Warriors coming into town. Now, it was kind of interesting because the three of us were on site, obviously, at the game, but we were kind of busy doing different things. I know Paul was sitting courtside with Carlo Jimenez and manning the LA Clippers broadcast, which was pretty cool. And I kind of joked that they're twinsies up there because they were both wearing their clear frame glasses. And yeah, they're officially twins and probably besties by now as well. Michael and I were shooting the game, and it was fun, but I think it was also enjoyable for the fans themselves. I want to put a few pictures up here and look at all of the fans and all of their glory and excitement. And I was seeing this last week, how I'm so stoked that a lot of these families and kids get to see some of their favorite NBA players. Of course, probably the collective favorite, that is Steph Curry. We heard chants at the end of the game, we want Curry. And I think a lot of people don't realize that in preseason, usually the superstars don't play in the second half, but Steph Curry, James Harden, to their credit, they did play a lot in the first half, Draymond Green as well. But it was a fun time. I do got to brag, obviously, about my grandma. Now that we're on YouTube, I can show you the picture of her and her sign that says, Aloha Steph Curry, world's greatest three-point shooter. I'm your number one fan. So she's holding it up. So I was able to snap a couple of photos with her, or of her, as she's wearing her Steph Curry jersey as well, that I had got her for a couple of Christmases ago, I guess. And yeah, she is, I don't care what anybody says, my grandma is Steph Curry's number one fan for sure. So if you think you are, you're not. You don't be grandma. Grandma spent time, and she's so cute because she even had that lei that she has on, the blue and yellow lei that she wanted to give to him. And then she made that sign, and then she photocopied the sign to give Steph a copy of the sign if she could. But unfortunately, she was tent row. I got them tickets, but it was just a lot of commotion. And then at the end of the game, she's trying to tell me, can you give it to him? Or I was like, Grandma, I can't. I work in media. I wish I could, but there are certain etiquette that we have to follow. So I cannot give it to him. Or she was wanting me to give the lei to Steve Kerr or something. But unfortunately, we can't do that. But nonetheless, she was excited with her sign at hand, and probably one of the great experiences to see, as I keep saying, her adopted grandson Steph Curry play in person for once. But yeah, that was a fun time. But also just the ending of the game, if you guys missed it, Lindy Waters III.
Wet.
As if ice
Splash.
in his veins, as Michael said it, but hitting the game winner. So I think that was collectively like the most exciting thing for all of the fans. Even if you were cheering for the Clippers, I feel like anytime someone can be in an arena to witness like a buzzer beating game winner, there's just something about it. And to hear everyone, like, I just feel like when I watch some of the video, you do have Clippers fans like going, ah, like people wearing Clippers jerseys that were cheering, because again, if you don't go often and witness these kinds of things, it feels entirely different when you watch it on TV to when you're there in person. And ironically, Lindy Waters III, maybe another Splash brother, because he led the Golden State Warriors in threes. He hit 5 of 7, and Steph didn't hit any, surprisingly, out of all people. And you could hear the sighs, because every time Steph would put up a 3, he attempted 4 total, and every time he would put up a 3, you hear everybody go, oh. It's like, it's okay, everyone. We'll see enough of Steph Curry. I think he's still maybe recovering from, kind of putting the Team USA on his back for the Olympics and essentially winning the games for the Olympic team. 190 again for a Lindy Waters buzzer beating 3. But yeah, the first guy to celebrate it with him, Steph Curry. So I hope everybody that went out there, it was a treat, I think, for a lot of basketball fans. And there were all kinds of jerseys, not just Golden State. You had Clippers. I was kind of next to a James Harden fan who had a sign also. I didn't post it on our social media yet, but James Harden came by, signed that fan's sign. So that was really cool to see, because this fan was maybe like, maybe 14. And then he had on his sign, he had a picture of him as a kid that was like a Halloween costume where he was James Harden with the fake beard and everything. So that was nice to see. I was right next to him when James Harden came by, and he was so happy, signed his sports card, signed his sign. So it was nice to see it. Yes, we love Steph. Steph is one of my favorites, you guys know. But just to see the other superstars and other fans be able to see who they looked up to and have those kinds of experiences and those moments, I think was such a treat. And I hope they continue to do this moving forward. And maybe we get Caitlin Clark here. Maybe that would be pretty cool. Now that we've had NBA a couple of times, it's all about the W, everybody. So let's bring on the Las Vegas Aces and the Indiana Fever in like a preseason thing or something. But I know their window's kind of tight for after the draft and college players coming on the team. But maybe we can make it happen. They should expand out here and bring us the W. Let's go.
I'm here for the W in Hawaii. That would be a lot of fun. I'm here for any basketball here in Hawaii, but it was a really fun experience from start to finish on Saturday. It was really fun to get there super early and see how excited people were. I mean, I got there right around 10 a.m., which was when they started allowing media into the building to start setting up for broadcasts and whatnot. And as I got there, a ton of people already lined up, already waiting. The traffic was starting to back up a little bit as well. You could tell that people were really, really excited for this day, and they should have been. I mean, they had 2 franchises who have a lot of talent and a lot of young guys, too, a lot of new faces. You mentioned Lindy Waters III, who was really, really fun in that second half. Didn't play in the first half, where you got almost 2 different games, right, where you had the starters, the rotation guys, the superstars in the first half, and then the second half, you got to see guys who are still some of the best basketball players in the world, fighting hard to try and, 1, win the game, and 2, show why they deserve to make these teams. So it was a fun preseason game. I'm really excited for what's going to continue. It feels like the partnership between the Clippers and Hawaii is good. It seemed like the Warriors enjoyed their experience, and it seemed like the fans really, really enjoyed this weekend, and I think that's the biggest part of it, especially considering, like you kind of alluded to, it's very rare to get these types of opportunities for fans in Hawaii. So when you do, you like to see them really take advantage. And it was a sold-out and plus probably a little bit
Yeah.
crowd at Stan Sheriff Center this past Saturday.
Yeah.
Yeah, and shout out the Clippers and the Warriors for putting on a show, because I think when Kobe was down here, they played 1 or 2 games against the Utah Jazz, and that first game was kind of a blowout in the second half. So
Yeah.
it's like, why stick around? But yeah, the players that played for both the Clippers and the Warriors made it a game at the end, and they definitely were playing defense like it wasn't a preseason game. Because credit to the Clippers, they actually like forced 2 deflections before that game winner from Lindy Waters. You mentioned seeing the other jerseys in there. I think in the photo I took of the celebration, I think there's a Seattle Supersonics jersey in the background.
Shout
So
out
there's
that guy.
I know my brother-in-law was at the game wearing his Denver Nuggets hat. So it was just a fun time for everybody. And I want to give a special shout out to our own AC Studio for helping us go viral on Instagram. If you need the best angle of Lindy Waters game winner, so shout out to AC.
Ooh, I'm glad that you reminded us about that. Yeah, shout out AC, because he had the perfect viewpoint, and fortunate for him, he's a veteran, so he's not shy to bust out his phone next to the radio broadcast to take the game winner. And yeah, he was on it, and I will echo Michael's talk about it was the best angle. The national broadcast, there were some other videos on there, but the part that made where AC was the best is because he had the angle of right after Lindy Waters hits the 3, and then he turns around and he kind of has like that stone cold face, pushes the other guy out. It wasn't like a push. People are like, oh, he pushed him. I was like, he was in the way, and he just kind of nudged him on the side, and him and Steph like jumped up, and yeah, I don't know. It's over like 50,000 likes so far on our
We're
Instagram.
over 70,000
so
now. I
over
just checked.
70,000. Get us to 100,000 likes. It'll be I think this is the most liked video we've ever had, actually, by far. So, and I kind of mentioned, you can also see Kaimi Fairbairn's game winner, but normally what Kaimi's video got, which is like 300 something likes, is like really good for us. And then, but now it doesn't seem as good compared to
79.4 thousand
Woo!
likes. On top of that, 182 comments. So we appreciate you getting in on the conversation as well. One of the Syracuse men's basketball players commented on it as well. I was very confused about that crossover. Small world. It's a great post. It's a great angle, and like both of you said, I'll echo it as well. Shout out AC Studio, because he got the shot.
Because Michael had his still camera and his phone going at the same time, and then I just had my still going. And by the way, Michael too actually has it. If you go to our website, hawaiisportsradio.com, I pulled up the shot I took of the celebration, but Michael's one is like by far way better. He is like, oh, you didn't put the other one that I like on our Instagram too. You put the second one, but the one where him and Steph are both jumping at each other. But anyways, you can go to our Instagram to check out more photos, or go to hawaiisportsradio.com to see more, and then we'll get even more up there. But yeah, it was a fun time. Again, I hope all the fans out there had an awesome time. If you went, feel free to text us at 808-888-KGU1. That's 808-888-5481 if you guys want to just say how much fun you guys had. I know my grandma texted me this morning saying how much fun she had. So like I said, it's just awesome to see that Hawaii fans had a chance to experience this, because I know for us here, we've been fortunate to go to a lot of professional games and cover it. So I'm just excited for all the fans and the smiling faces that we got to see. But yeah, wanted to start off our show in that super positive note, because when we come back, we will get to the topic that we definitely need to get to, and that is the University of Hawaii football game and the loss at San Diego State this past Saturday, in a game that, if you guys watched it, a game in that Hawaii, not only they was a must-win game, but they could have and should have won that game, because just like how I felt at Sam Houston, Hawaii, with the talent that we have, we're better. We should have won, shoulda, coulda, woulda, though. But at the end of the day, Hawaii did lose at the end, and falling ever so shortly to the Aztecs, 27-24. So don't go anywhere. We'll be back to give our thoughts and recap what exactly happened in that game when we come back on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network.
Stop. to more Wake Up in the Den with Ku'ule Agbayani on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network, 95.1 FM and AM 760.
Welcome back to Wake Up in the Den. Ku'ule Agbayani, Paul Brecht, and Michael Lescaro. All right, we got to rip the Band-Aid off now. We started the show on a high note, but now comes time to talk about the tough stuff. I know the team itself has the 24-hour rule, and they got to already move on to the next game. But, of course, here we need to do our job and recap what we witnessed on Saturday. Before we get to that, though, thank you, Mr. Paul Brecht, for being active on the internet world and announcement of the Washington State game. This is the game that is going to be at Pullman, Washington. For a while, they had a kind of so it was either morning or afternoon, and that game time has been officially announced. So that is on October 19th at Washington State, and it will be at 9:30 a.m. Hawaii time, and that game is, you can watch it on the CW. So this will be obviously this weekend. We have a tall task at hand with Boise State coming into town. That game at 5 o'clock p.m. at the Clarence T.C. Ching Complex. And then next week, Saturday, will be the game at Washington State. Again, that game time has officially been announced, 9:30 a.m. Hawaii time on the CW. All right, but we got to still stick to recapping what we saw with the Rainbow Warriors and Aztecs on Saturday. Hawaii falling 27-24. Spread was only a 1.5, over under 47.5. So at least they covered one thing that I said. I was very adamant about Hawaii and the over, and at least the over came to fruition. But yeah, let's see, where do we start here? There's so much to I guess recap of the game itself and nitpick certain plays that happened and all of but for the most part, it didn't feel like Hawaii was it wasn't the same type of mistakes and frustration that we saw when they were on the road at Sam Houston. It was just one of those. I think that's what's more frustrating, because I know, Michael, we were kind of looking at some plays before we hopped on air, and it's easy to nitpick certain plays here and there, but it's like 5 plays or 5 moments. I don't know. We'll see. Michael's write-up will come over later. What do you do, 3? Is it the 3 plays that... but this one might be more.
Do some more positive future articles about individual players this week.
So Michael usually does kind of like or he did a couple where certain plays that define the game this moment. But Hawaii was putting it on. It was very close. First half was kind of, as Kyle likes to say, a snooze-a-palooza for Hawaii in a sense, and then kind of allowed San Diego State to score when the second or the first half was just ending. But if you look down the row of the stats itself, and we'll pull it up for you guys watching on YouTube, I mean, Hawaii, if you weren't someone, and this is kind of the reason why we always talk about, like, oh yeah, stats, you can look at stats all day long, but then you actually have to watch the game and see what happens. Because if you look at some of the stats and the breakdowns, I mean, Hawaii getting more first downs and rushing yards, we actually only held them to the net 99. Hawaii had 84 of its own. Passing, Hawaii outpassing San Diego State 272 to 224. Total offense, Hawaii had 356 yards compared to San Diego State's 323. And then even penalties, something that Hawaii has struggled with. Hawaii only having 7 penalties for 66 yards to San Diego State's 9 penalties for 104 yards. I feel like usually when it results in losses for Hawaii, it's kind of flip-flop. Like, Hawaii will get over 100 yards in penalties, and that's usually what we like to kind of say, like, oh, see, if we didn't get these penalties here and there. So I think that's the part that gets a little frustrating, because you look down the line, and again, those of you watching on our YouTube channel can see the stats right in front of you, where all accounts look like Hawaii should have been the winning team on top, and San Diego State just calling the better plays, getting the stops when they needed to. After the game, I know a lot of people are wondering about that play call. Now, Stephen Tsai was over there in San Diego State, and he did a write-up that came out in yesterday's paper, catching up with Timmy Chang. I know a lot of people are questioning that 4th and 2 call with 120 left in the game on the San Diego State 31-yard line. Would have meant a 48-yard field goal by Kansei Matsuzawa to tie the game. So via Stephen Tsai's article, he was able to ask Timmy, and Timmy explained his decision to go for it on that 4th and 2, saying, quote, in a sense, if you give them all that time, they'll just come down and kick a field goal to just win it. I didn't want to put it in their hands with that much time left. Just wanted to see if we can convert and get closer and kill the time and give ourselves a chance to win and walk off. Maybe we could have kicked it instead. I thought we had a good play drawn up, but they made a better play, and that's part of it. And again, that's what Timmy Chang had to say to Steven Tsai in his write-up of the game yesterday. And I understand that. It's one of those things where we see it all the time, right? Where if the play call works and everyone's just celebrating on how much it works, and if it doesn't work, then a lot of
If it works,
people,
you're a genius. If it doesn't work, you're a moron.
then we see I see a lot of people complaining about that, not going for the field goal. Honestly, I can understand that, because if you look at some of their drives that San Diego State had, they did score fast. And again, I go back to their touchdown to end the first half, and they went down the field. So it's realistic. They could technically, I mean, there's a possibility they could have scored before that. If you look at that, one of their plays, I mean, they got down the field and scored the touchdown, like 9 plays, 75 yards, and in a minute and 47 for a touchdown. So they could potentially score that quickly. So I understand the reasoning with Timmy Chang. And again, the field was very, very slippery. So you're talking Kansei, who maybe even doesn't normally make a 40-yarder easily, and you're asking him to go out there and potentially kick on a slippery surface from that far out. I mean, we're not saying like he's not Amy Fairbairn, or Janikowski, and I'm not even talking about Janikowski like the dad. It's like the son that we've saw. I think actually he's at Washington State, I believe.
I think
but
so.
like Kansei, he's a great kicker. He's been solid, but 48 yards in college on a slippery surface isn't exactly a chip shot. So from that standpoint, I can understand like where Timmy is coming from. He's not going to say that about, and maybe that's not a reasoning either, but from my watching the game and realizing like that's a difficult kick on a slippery surface. So that's more so why I can understand why Timmy maybe didn't want to go for the field goal, because then you're just going to either come short and there you go, and then the rest would be history. So I just wanted to kind of make sure we tell people the explanation that Timmy had for not going for the field goal in that 4th and 2, only because I regularly seen it all over. Like, we should have done this, we should have done that. And then there's also the final drive and the either throw the ball or the hook and ladder and everything. That's another thing. Whatever happens, you don't know. And at the end of the day, there's a lot of other things Hawaii could have done right and just came up short.
Yeah, it was a disappointing loss in a lot of different ways, right? Where I don't really take issue with not kicking the field goal.
Yeah.
I'll be honest, kind of similar.
Same.
Like echoing your point, I love Kansei. I did not have the confidence in him making that in 100% of the time. And I was like, okay, 4th and 2, still a lot of time. We also, how many times have we seen San Diego State kick a game-winning field goal against Hawaii?
Yeah.
How many times do we have to watch it happen before, maybe we think about it? And I get that point from Timmy. It still hurts. It still sucks, because you look at it and you said it before, there are so many opportunities that you look at and you're saying, well, Hawaii won this category and this category and this category. Why didn't they win? And you look at it and Braden played awesome. I will say that interception proves costly when you add an extra possession. You look at the red zone opportunities, right? Both teams had great red zones throughout the day. 5 for 5 though was San Diego State in the red zone. They had 3 for 3, touchdowns and whatnot, and then they had an extra possession that they were able to get a field goal on as well. It's that extra possession. It's those little things there. It's the taking 2 sacks towards the end of the game, that type of thing. It hurts. And then even so, you still have a 4th and 2 opportunity to convert and continue that drive. It really sucks to not be able to pull this one out on the road.
Yeah, I want to give some extra context for people that may have missed the game to that Braden Shaker's interception. Now, Braden, to his credit, finished with 272 yards, 3 touchdowns, and that 1 interception. But that 1 interception, they were on their own 7, and he throws a bomb to Dekel Crowdis, gets caught by San Diego State, and starts their drive at their own 45. Marquez Cooper starts that drive with a 31-yard run. And Aztecs score the first touchdown of the game with just under 5 minutes left in the half. So Hawaii was containing them by all accounts. And then that's what happened. So even more, like you said, giving them the extra possession, because should have Hawaii continued that drive, then the Aztecs, maybe they would have scored like after Hawaii potentially scores. But then you wouldn't have given them that much time to score that touchdown that they did to end the first half. So, just I wanted to give people some context to that interception where it proved very, very costly for Hawaii, because for the most part, they held Marquez Cooper to just over 100 net yards, I believe. And then it was just 109 net yards. So they did their job, and the 2 touchdowns, I mean, it's hard to stop a good running back from getting into the end zone. But things like that proved costly, and some of these mistakes, even some pass interference calls, holding to extend a drive for the Aztecs, all of those little things when you look at the penalties, San Diego State had more penalties than Hawaii, but Hawaii's penalties and mistakes came at the most costly times that went in San Diego State's favor.
Yeah, and we go back to the interception, and it was a kind of a, like Kyle said, Snoozy Palooza, whatever it's called, right? And it was a 3-3 game. It's this is makings of a New York Jets game. But
Don't give us that much
it
credit.
came down to, at the start, who's going to make the first mistake, and it was Hawaii. And the thing that kind of infuriates me a little bit is that, San Diego State, for their game day photos, the graphics, they had the San Diego State player breaking our turnover war club. And the thing that sucks is that we lost the turnover battle, and we didn't even force a turnover against the true freshman quarterback. And in this game, I'm rewatching it. It seems like we were trying to take a lot of deep shots instead of taking the underneath stuff, which was just kind of open. And sometimes that's what you guys got to do. And I think in the post game notes that Neil Iwamoto emailed, I think we ran a season high 70 something plays. This was a game where you kind of wanted to shorten the game. And that's what San Diego State was doing. Going to that 4-2 play call, again, no problem with not kicking the field goal. No problem with going for it. But a timeout should have been called. I'm rewatching it right now, and they get up to the line after Pofele catches that long ball on 3rd and 17 to make it 4-2. They get up to the line really quickly, but at 22 seconds in the play clock, Braden tells everybody to wait, and he looks to the sideline to get a call. So the offense saw a look that they wanted, but the defense also is given the opportunity to make their own calls where they're singing to the rest of the defense. And, last year we saw what happened at Michigan with Connor Stans and sign stealing. And, you don't, and at that point in time, and even you can see in some angles, Jonah Pinocchio is he's on the far end. He's like, what's the call? Because he doesn't know what he's doing. So he just ends up running a streak, which didn't matter anyways. But a timeout needed to be called. Your quarterback took 2 sacks on this drive. Pofele just made 2 huge catches on this drive. These are miracle plays. And sure, if there was 3 timeouts in the bag, you could hopefully get the ball back with at least under a minute to work, not 10 seconds. But you don't take that timeout, and then when you're changing the call, because they changed it with 22 seconds left, and they don't snap the ball till 7 seconds left, you needed a timeout there. That gives you an opportunity to get everybody on the same page. Also gives you an opportunity for special team staff to say, hey, Conte, are you comfortable? If Conte says he's good to go, then it's also something you have to consider. But if you gotta get everything, you have to collaborate. And I think in that moment, that was the game right there. They needed to talk it over, make sure everyone's on the same page, get your best play on 4-2, because that was the game right there.
Yeah, I mean, going back to what I was kind of saying before with red zone opportunities, efficiency there. One other category that Hawaii lost in that efficiency battle, 4th downs. 3 for 3 on 4th down was San Diego State. Hawaii 1 for 2, and Michael just brought up a phenomenal point about that one that didn't go in those 2 opportunities where Hawaii, you probably like to go back, take a timeout, and then be all on the same page, be all together, be ready to go. And even further than that, if you are much more unified on that, you probably also can start thinking about the rest of the drive as well and how you want to attack that and what the thought process is. It was a lot of little things, and unfortunately that continues to be the conversation with Hawaii, is that when you see these losses, it is not because of talent, but because of little errors in the worst times.
Yeah, and to piggyback on you guys talking about the timeouts, because we go back to what Timmy said, and he wanted to extend that drive, and give San Diego State little time, if any, to have the ball. So that's true, because you know why coaches will preserve the timeouts, right? Because when they turn over the ball or whatnot, then we saw it at the end where Hawaii did end up getting the ball back, because you have to call the timeouts. But if your main goal was to extend the drive and give that, then you wouldn't technically need the 2 timeouts. You would, you could use the timeout, extend your drive, and then you would give, like I said, San Diego State even less time, and how Timmy said, potentially walk it off, because you would eat up that much more clock. And San Diego State, for their part, had a couple of timeouts as well, so they could have done the same on their end. And I know the broadcast brought up there was a timeout called early in the fourth quarter that could have been preserved and could have helped Hawaii as well. But yeah, that's something that I noticed when I saw what Timmy said, where he wanted to go for it and extend that drive. Then I'm like, yeah, why wouldn't you call a timeout? Because you theoretically wouldn't need 2 if your main goal was to run out the clock and kick a walk-off. But I know as a head coach, you're thinking of multiple things, and if it doesn't work like it didn't, then now you had that extra timeout to use to slow down or stop the clock because you needed it. So it's all of this stuff happens in football all the time, but we do need to take a break. So when we come back, though, we will continue more University of Hawaii football talk. And where do we go from here? What do we do? So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network.
Back to more Wake Up in the Den with Ku'ule Agbayani on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network, 95.1 FM and AM 760.
Welcome back to all of you, the beautifulest of all the beautiful people. It's Wake Up in the Den, right across of Mr. Paul Brecht and Michael Escaro. I'm Kule Agbayani. Mahalo for tuning in this and every weekday morning on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network and streaming live every Monday like we are right now on our YouTube channel. And you can also check out other things on our YouTube channel as well, including what we talked about earlier, the game-winning three-pointer by Lindy Waters to lift Golden State over the LA Clippers this past Saturday at the Simplify Arena at Stan Sheriff Center. So a lot of good things there on our YouTube channel. And again, like and subscribe, and we appreciate all of you guys that continue to support us, and that is why you are the beautifulest of all the beautiful people. All right, we are still continuing our recap of the Hawaii and San Diego State game from Saturday, in which Hawaii fell 27-24 to the Aztecs. There are little things, obviously, to nitpick and whatnot, but where does Hawaii go from here? I mean, I think one good way to start is got to catch the football. That's kind of one thing. 6 drop passes is before in the previous segment, we talked about some of the little plays and little mistakes and penalties and turnovers that ultimately changed the outcome and gave San Diego State extra drives and extra just opportunities that they were able to capitalize on, and ended up being to Hawaii's detriment. But there were also certain things to celebrate. I do obviously want to give Braden Shager a lot of his flowers, and I hope by now people understand like how much this kid, like, he is talented, and we've been saying that so much on this show, that he went out there, he balled out, again, 272 yards, 3 touchdowns, an unfortunate interception that did lead to a San Diego State touchdown, but also he netted 21 yards on the ground. And even though it seems like, oh, that's it, only 21 yards. I mean, if you watch that game, that guy was just at every game. He was extending plays. He was taking hits. I mean, receiver Nick Senecal gave his quarterback a lot of credit as well in the postgame and Steven Tsai's article that, hey, that's our guy. Like, he hypes us up when we're in the huddle. He's like, let's go. We got this. And Senecal even gives Braden credit for being the guy that is able to scramble and extend plays and do this stuff for his team and sacrificing his body. So, I mean, that's a huge positive. I mean, what we saw from Braden on Saturday was nothing short than what you would love to see from your quarterback, and giving all of that effort. When we look at the final box, you had Pefele Ashlock as their leading receiver, 77 yards and a touchdown. And as I just mentioned, Nick Senecal, 56 yards and a score. Tylan Hines also getting a touchdown, which I know a lot of fans and including us in the studio, it's nice to see him get worked in there and being able to get a score and wanting to see even more of Tylan. So there's a lot of talent on this team, which we always say, but that's why it was so frustrating to watch. Now, to San Diego State's credit, and especially their guy Trey White, I mean, just being all over the place, and especially on that final drive or the last couple of drives for Hawaii, Trey White was just, I mean, he sacked Braden a couple of times on that drive, and it was, I want to give some credit where credit is due for the Aztecs, because he was just giving our offensive line quite the difficult time.
Gave him the business.
Yeah, gave him the business. So they had their guy in Trey White. I mean, he was making plays off the edge, and then he would drop back and make a couple of plays, and he was just really fun to watch if you like defense. And so it's not like Hawaii was clearly way more dominant in all facets. So I wanted to make sure I pointed that out, where San Diego State did have some quality players. I mentioned earlier that to Hawaii's credit, they were able to slow down Marquez Cooper, their leading receiver, a guy that has 1,000 yards in like every single season, and just barely the appetizer of what Hawaii will face in Ashton Genty on Saturday. But at least they were able to contain Cooper, although there was that explosive 31-yard run that was his longest of the game that set up and led to the touchdown. So it was like all these little things when you go back and watch the game that you're like, oh man, it's like this play, and like if this didn't, I mean, I guess that's sports and that's football in general, but it's just sometimes in football, like, yeah, you'll have a penalty and you're able to recover and get a stop or force a turnover or something. But in this game, it felt like every single mistake that Hawaii made turned into that even bigger mistake, because again, Hawaii didn't have that many penalty yards. Like, San Diego State had more, so we can't go back and say like what we saw from Sam Houston was the problem, where you're just like, oh, they're just keep on shooting themselves in the foot and all that stuff. It was just really, it was crazy to watch. I rewatched the game yesterday. I'm like, oh my goodness, because I didn't get to watch it live on Saturday, and I only watched the second half-ish, maybe like the last quarter and a half of the game on Saturday. And rewatching it yesterday, I'm like, man, that led to this for San Diego State, and that led to another touchdown, and that led to points for San Diego State. Like, San Diego State was just the team that was able to capitalize on all, it felt like all of Hawaii's mistakes.
Yeah, it's strange. You can kind of pinpoint exactly where Hawaii lost this game in certain moments more than others, because you said it before, right? Where in every sport and every game, you can kind of feel moments where momentum shifts, or you can feel moments where all of a sudden a team kind of takes control. And in this one, there were multiple where you're like, man, Hawaii is right there. They're ready to break through, go through the door and bust it down finally. And it felt like they did that when Senecal breaks off this great play, bounces off a defender, spins back, goes to the end zone, goes nuts with our guys. Mike, Ben, it was awesome, had an awesome picture.
Unofficial cheerleaders that were there.
Exactly. And then right after that, you give up a scoring drive right back, and it's like that is so uncharacteristic for the defense as well, where moments for example, I mean, you brought up Cooper. He had the 31-yard run. It's the second time this season that Hawaii has given up a run over 20 yards. Through 5 games, just the second explosive on the ground that they've allowed, and it came in the worst possible moments. It happens all the time. The 48-yard reception, catch and run right after, where it sets up the next drive, where a double move, you slip on the field a little bit,
man.
and then all of a sudden you go from having all the momentum. If I'm not mistaken, I think it was 2nd and 10 or something along those lines.
2nd and 13.
13.
Yeah.
I was going to say, I remembered there was a positive play before it because it felt like the same old adage of 1 step forward and 2 steps back,
Yeah.
except for San Diego State, it was 1 step back and then 2 steps forward. And when you have a football game that was as close as the one on Saturday, because Hawaii played well enough to win, but did not take the win. San Diego State also played well enough to win, and they went out there and they took the win. And that was the difference between the two programs.
Yeah, and you mentioned about where do we go from here. And I think for this program and for this team, we are going to be in these competitive games. We saw it with UCLA, we see it with San Diego State, and we have to have a plan when things do get close and what we're going to do. I know we talked to Coach Ursula last week, and he emphasized needing depth, and that's awesome. That's great. But when we get into this one possession games, when we get into the fourth quarter, we need the best 11 on the field, and that's what we need to do. Receivers, we need to stick the best receivers on the field, and on defense as well, because I just kind of angry tweeted like a couple minutes ago where I saw the PFF grades for some of the players in the West, and our best graded cornerback in Cam Stone was not on the field for the first 3 plays after we took a 24-20 lead, especially on that 48-yard field flipping play that pretty much put them in plus territory. And at that point, we just got to play our best players. This is not volleyball where there's a set rotation. When we get into that rotation, that player comes out. We got to kind of treat it like a NBA playoff game, right? Where, hey,
shorten the rotation.
That's why we have a bench, right? But in the fourth quarter, the starters are out there and they ain't coming off, because guess what? There is a job that needs to get finished. As the players were saying all last week, we're going to get there. All that matters is the mission. So if all that matters is the mission, you got to find that extra gas in the tank to get out there. We don't care. Like, you're tired, sure. The other team is tired, of course. They're playing in the same conditions as you guys. Put our best players on the field, and we can improve offensively. Put back some of the quick game. Put back some of the RPO game where we get the ball out of Braden's hands quickly so he's not out there taking a beating and he gets into rhythm. Going back to that game, right, there's 2 number reasons why we were able to come back in that game. One, because San Diego State kept committing penalties,
Yeah.
which opened the door for us, and the running ability of Braden Shager. If we're taking away the sacks, which in the NFL, those count towards the passing stats, passing statistics, he gained about 55 yards, I believe Steven Tsai wrote in his article. But most of them were off of scrambles. I mean, I remember we were at the Clippers game, Clippers Warriors. I was showing you the play-by-play. It's like, hey, Braden Shager runs.
Yeah.
Braden Shager runs. Oh, Pofele catch. That's what we need to be seeing. But and he wants to run the ball. That's the thing. He wants to run the ball. We need to stop babying him and put in some quarterback power, some quarterback draws, make an actual quarterback design play where we have everybody blocking for him, and that forces the other team to, forced to stop that, and then that should open stuff in the passing game. Like, the best way we can do for Braden is if we kind of play him like Josh Allen, where sometimes you just have to be at that bowling
Yeah.
ball. He's 6'3", 200-something pounds, right? It's not like we have Micah Alejado out there who he's kind of a smaller guy. Like, use Braden as a runner. And then, if you have Landon Sims out there, you can also use Landon Sims as a blocker for Braden Shager, just like his father was when he was at the University of Hawaii, where you could just have Landon Sims lead block for him up the middle. So there are ways for this offense to get better, and they just need to activate. Like, I always see Braden in his post-game interviews when they lose, he always has that body language like he knows he could have done more, and I'm sure he can with his legs. And we just need to, people that was injured, like, bro, he is a grown adult. He is a warrior. Let him be a warrior and stop babying him.
Yeah, and I also think he looks like that because I mentioned it earlier, like, this kid is just like sacrificing his body. I mean, he's not sliding on every play. He's like going there.
That's a great point by you.
He's taking the tackles like a actual running back, and you're like, dude, you're the quarterback. You can slide. There are times, and there was like that targeting call that got called on San Diego State, but Braden is like, he's powering forward like there's no tomorrow. And I'm like, this kid is tough. He is not hiding behind being a quarterback and just, sliding and going down very easily. He's trying to, there was that one play where he got the first down. He gets hit. There was like 3 guys on him, and he still like had the know-it-all to stretch over. And while he's getting hit and get that first down and still hold on to, in my mind, I'm like, don't do that. You're going to fumble. But he held on to the football, got the first down, extended the drive for Hawaii, and he played phenomenal. And that's why I wanted to bring that up again. And I want to bring up also with Cam Stone, because you're right, it's like he's the best defender. The stats don't technically show it because he only had a couple of tackles, but that's because they refuse to pass to his side because they know that Cam Stone was one of the best and continues to be one of the best defensive players. That's why these stats are always funny, because Cam Stone isn't really on there. 1, he's not in every play, and 2, it's because they just don't throw in that direction because they know how good of a defensive player Cam Stone is. All right, then take a break. Good thing we have 2 hours of the show, everybody. So we will definitely get into more University of Hawaii talk and look slightly ahead to Boise State. If you guys missed it earlier, the game time for the Washington State game has been officially announced, and that game will be at 9:30 a.m. Hawaii time on the CW. So we'll talk more UH football in hour number 2. But when we come back, we want to turn it over to the women's side and tell you about some of the wins that came out for the University of Hawaii over the weekend. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network.
Wake Up in the Den with Ku'ulei Agbayani on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network, 95.1 FM and AM 760.
Welcome back to Wake Up in the Den. Ku'ulei Agbayani, Paul Brecht, and Michael Lescaro. All right, we want to talk about wins now, especially because the ladies carrying it.
I was going to say, We want to talk about wins. We want to talk about the women, baby.
Yeah,
Come
exactly. We want to talk about winners here now. We will get into more UH football, obviously, because that is part of our job. But at the same time, we want to talk about wins. And because that's always the positive part to talk about when it comes to all of these games. Want to give a huge shout out to the Rainbow Wahine soccer team. Woo! Putting the Big West Ooh, that was really good, guys.
on. And
It
what
was
can we say?
was
We're
that
stepping
planned?
it up.
That was
No,
No,
it was a
It's
soundboard.
just,
I was like, that was a good sound effect.
Oh, God.
No,
Only
but-
the best for the winners of 6 straight now.
Woo! So it has been amazing for the University of Hawaii women's soccer team, putting the conference on notice. There you go.
Yeah.
First 4-0 start to conference play in program history. I love it. I'm reading off of the Hawaii Soccer Twitter, and it's like, check mark. Longest winning streak since 2003. First Big West team to start 4-0 in conference play since 2016. Clapping emoji on here, but it's awesome. Hawaii Soccer, Amber Gilbert getting her first goal of the season as well. And it's nice for her to find the back of the net because she's always been so solid and almost like she's just been kind of that menace to the defense. And that's how she's been contributing because they're so focused on her that it's been opening like the space up for other players on the team who have found the back of the net. But happy that Amber finally got her goal of this season, and it was the lone goal. It's phenomenal, and we are excited for this women's soccer team. And yeah, hopefully we're going to continue doing big things. 1-0 over Cal State Fullerton again, and extending their overall win streak to 6. Woo!
Shout out Mia Foster as well for getting the assist on that Amber Gilbert goal against her former team in Cal State Fullerton. So a
I know.
little side story. But yeah, they're looking really good in Big West play. I think Coach Bud got the memo that we might be joining the Mountain West. So she's definitely got her squad elevated for Mountain West play if we get the invite.
Ooh, that's a good point. I like what you did there. Like, yeah, let's just keep putting it into the universe where that's exactly what they're doing and they're planning for. And still close wins. That's why I have to keep talking about the defense. I mean, like, all it takes is one goal difference and you're the winner, but you also have to keep the other team from scoring as well. And this defense has been solid through those conference games. Again, 4-0 in conference, only letting up one goal. So Hawaii only scoring like one goal each and then 2 against UC Davis, but just giving up that one goal against UC Davis, outscore, and they won that game 2-1. But their defense back there has just been awesome. Again, lights out, shutting out Cal State University Bakersfield, then CSUN, and then yesterday shutting out Cal State Fullerton. So as much credit to the offense and finding the back of the net, the defense has just been shut out as well.
Yeah, it's the 4th straight opponent to be held to fewer than 10 shot attempts by the Rainbow Wahine. They gave up just 8 shots per match over this span and a total of 7 shots on goal.
Woo.
So that's something else that we talk about all the time too, where it's like, yeah, you got shots, but what are the quality of those shots? Only 7 shots on goal over a 4-game stretch is insanity. It's also the 7th time in 8 wins that the Rainbow Wahine have scored the go-ahead goal in the second half. So, you know, we're a second half team.
There you go. And
Always have been.
Yeah. Up next, they go on the road again. So this Thursday, they will play at UC San Diego and at UC Irvine on Sunday. And those games you can watch on ESPN+. Thursday's game will be at 4 o'clock p.m. Hawaii time. And then Sunday's game will be at 3 o'clock p.m. Hawaii time at UC Irvine. All right, got to step aside. We'll come back, get you caught up with what happened in Rainbow Wahine volleyball, get to more football, some high school football, and a lot more in hour number 2 here on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network. Did you
Agbayani on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network, 95.1 FM and AM 760.
Welcome back to Wake Up in the Den, hour number 2. Paul Brecht, Michael Lescaro, I'm Kule Agbayani. You can watch us right now streaming live on our YouTube channel and weekdays from 8 to 10 live here on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network, AM 760, 95.1 FM and hawaiisportsradio.com. And listen on demand at hawaiisportsradio.com or wherever you get your podcasts. All right, want to continue our positive winning stuff that's going on with the University of Hawaii. We talked a lot about what happened with the UH football team, and we'll get to a little bit more of that coming up. Also in this hour, we will get to some major high school football games that took place over the weekend to catch you guys up with as well, because if you missed some, and we'll hear from a couple of the student athletes, including Jaren Keave Sango Polutele, who passed for not 1, not 2, not 3, but 6 touchdowns against Mililani in a quite eventful game as well. Just too much for the Trojans, so we'll tell you guys about what you may have missed in that game as well. But first, want to make sure we tell you guys we talked about soccer, UH soccer, and extending their winning streak and 4-0 to start conference play. And can they continue it as they go on the road again, going to UC San Diego this Thursday and then UC Irvine on Sunday before coming back home on October 20th against UC Riverside. So want to also get you caught up with Rainbow Wahine Volleyball, who are also on the road, playing first on Friday night at UC San Diego. Shout out to all the unofficial cheerleaders and cheer group that were in attendance that were there at the football game at San Diego State. But also on Friday, they were in attendance for the Rainbow Wahine volleyball team at UC San Diego, doing UH women's volleyball things and going 5 sets, and this time coming up on top once again at UC San Diego before sweeping Long Beach State on Saturday. So that was kind of a good thing. We watched the football game earlier in the day on Saturday, and then we flipped the channel over to women's volleyball and were able to see the Rainbow Wahine team come out on top in a sweep over Long Beach State. But Michael, I know you were at least watching that game. Paul and I were setting up at Pearl City for the high school football game on Friday, but you were able to watch some of that game. So just share some of your insights with this UH women's volleyball game against UC San Diego.
Yeah, well, we saw the return of Kaylin Alexander after missing about 1.5 sets on last week and then missing the full game on Saturday. But, she did look a little bit rusty in the start, but she came alive, I think, and down the stretch. And, again, she showed, I think in the fourth set, she had like 10 kills, which is like amazing and unbelievable. But yeah, these Wahine, they will grit and fight. And then, you can kind of see how Robin motivates her players, because in that third set, she reverted back to, we were down 0-2 and you had to do something differently. And I credit her for taking that adjustment and making the move. She went back to her opening night starting lineup, where we had Stella Ademi back in there. Jasmine Baymis was finally back in the lineup after losing playing time to Maddie Way and Miliana Sylvester at the middle, and she came along. And the players that were not getting playing time in the recent couple games and matches and weeks, they showed out and they came out. And Hawaii, they came back and reverse swept UC San Diego in that match. And on the second day against Long Beach State did not have an ace, which is pretty amazing because our serve receive was on there. Also want to give a shout out to Kate Lang. I know she's kind of the veteran. You just expect greatness out of her, and she kind of sometimes doesn't get the love that she deserves, just because we are accustomed to her being good. But she had a match high 15 digs against Long Beach State from the setter position. So shout out her for providing that. I don't know if it was the Long Beach game or the UC San Diego game, but she was also more aggressive on the attack. I think there's one play where she had the zero touch, so she was blocking a ball, but after she blocked the ball touched her block, she's able to get a swing on touch one to get the kill. So she's really coming on. Shout out our ball handlers too with Taylor and Victoria Leva. They do their thing, and again, this squad, using the full gamut, the whole roster to what it is. And I'm excited for the Rainbow Wahine. They're gonna make some waves in the Big West, and maybe them as well is getting ready for that Mountain West invite, because they definitely showed it, and they're just kind of dominating the competition right now.
We're gonna keep doing that. At least, I mean, they had an early showing with the UNLV game, who would be an opponent that they would face should they join the Mountain West. And UNLV is probably the only team that came out on the other side of the 5-setters this season, right? With Hawaii, I feel like every single time Hawaii comes out on top, even including that game at UC San Diego in the 5 sets, Hawaii finds a way to pull it out. And UNLV kind of Pepperdine, that's right. That was the one loss that Hawaii had for a while. 2 teams, and other than that, Hawaii usually seems to be coming out on top in those 5-setters. But yeah, Hawaii will continue their Big West Conference slate this week at home. So this Friday, they will host UC Davis, 7 o'clock p.m. at the Simplify Arena at Stan Sheriff Center. And then Sunday, against UC Riverside at 5 o'clock p.m.
It's part of their mixed plate series.
I saw that.
Pinoy Day / dyslexia awareness. So I'm kind of intrigued.
Hey, I'm both of those things.
You're dyslexic?
A little bit.
I think my wife is also a little bit dyslexic.
I mean, you guys see how I text sometimes.
You know what? Fair. Fair.
I don't know.
If that's
the way,
how we're
like,
diagnosing,
sometimes
then my wife is definitely dyslexic.
Well, then maybe she's part Filipino too.
Yeah, it's a Filipino thing.
According to
Goes
her
out my
coworkers,
brain.
she got the honorary mention. What did I? She's a little more local than I am, I guess.
But remember, Paul, you're right now you're part Filipino by association,
You're right.
that's why.
But that's the only card that I have left to play against her. So I gotta keep it in the back pocket for now. Use it for a rainy day.
Yeah. I'm like, oh, Eric Matthews, just thinking of me exactly when it came to this. Are they going to have Filipino mixed plates, though, there? That's the big thing. Because if you give me some really good pork guisantes with some adobo, then I'm there right away. Ooh, now I get all hungry again.
I was going to say, a usual scheduled segment. We
My
talk
usual.
about
This
food.
is why you canceled our football broadcast on Friday.
Exactly.
Yes. I don't even know, actually. Anyways, I digress now that I'm just thinking of, and I'm so spoiled, and I've said this before. I don't know, Michael, what's your favorite Filipino food? Or do you eat?
I like the pastries. I like Filipino pastries. So cascaron, pandesal, Spanish rolls, all the sort. Oh, the little balls on the stick. Oh, those are.
Oh, what about what do you call the ones like the mochi thing in the thing?
I think that's cascarons.
Is that what it's called? I don't know. I just remember my
We've
grandpa
gone
used to make it.
completely
Yeah.
off the rails.
I don't think I've ever asked Michael that question. That's why, and
It's
I had
a
to
good
ask.
question.
I'm
Are you the adventurous Filipino that
No,
eats
I am
traditional?
not.
Okay, me neither.
I'm
So
not.
I just had to ask if you.
No,
No,
get that away
same.
from me.
Tiniguan?
No, get
No.
that away from me.
Just for everyone that doesn't know, Michael, you're 100%, right? Are you 100%? Ish.
DNA
Ish.
in DNA, not in taste buds.
Okay, no, yeah. So Michael is technically 100. I'm half. So I'm always curious, especially it's interesting to know that you're not adventurous, just like I am too. I stick to like.
I was born in America.
I'm an appreciator of the culture.
I will stick to my pork guisantes, which people that maybe don't know is like basically your pork and peas, and with the Filipino flavor that it has to it, that's so good that nobody else can make it as good as my Auntie Maggie. So no, I don't care what you say. Auntie Maggie makes the best pork guisantes, then you got some adobo, and that's about as Filipino as I usually get, I think. Sade maybe sometimes. Anywho, sorry, I digress. I haven't had Filipino food in a while, so that's why I'm just going on this rant. And like, thanks to Eric Matthews, them and his team at UH for putting this Pinoy Day as part of their mixed plate series this Friday for UH women's volleyball against UC Davis. So, and dyslexia awareness. So another thing. So, all right, going back to University of Hawaii football ever so slightly, we'll definitely get into our more obviously detailed preview about this Saturday's game against Boise State. One of the Heisman favorites, Ashton Genty, coming to town. At the beginning of the day, though, as long as it's here at home and not on the Smurf turf at Boise State, there is always a chance. And you know what? With Vanderbilt upsetting Alabama over the weekend, I am going to put it in my head that there is still a chance, even though Hawaii, as it stands right now, they opened up as just an 18.5-point underdog at our friend's place at Circa Sports. Not sure what it is right now at Circa, but collectively at the other sports books, including ESPN Bet and BetMGM and Caesars, Hawaii now the 21-point underdog. So it's 3-touchdown underdog to Boise State coming into town. And I will say it again, Hawaii and the over. We can totally cover the 21. And, I think the over-under at Circa was set at 59.5. Right here at the other sports books, it's set at 61.5. Hawaii and the over. Because, if Boise State can put, what was the Utah State score again?
It was
like 60?
49-14 at halftime.
Oh my God.
So, as long as we can do better than that, it's a positive step forward. No, I'm not actually saying that, but yeah, you're going to see NFL talent on display, like unquestioned NFL talent on display this weekend. And for fans, that's pretty cool. And for the Hawaii team, I think that's even cooler. Right? Where you get an opportunity to, you have all the old adages, iron sharpens iron, you want to beat the best to be the best, and yada, yada, yada. Well, you got the best running back in the country coming into your house this Saturday. And Hawaii's defense, to their credit, even after this past weekend, still the top-ranked unit in the Mountain West, according to PFF. So I'm sure that they're licking their chops, hoping to get a chance to show that they can do what nobody else has been able to thus far this season and shut down Ashton Jeanty, who, by the way, I will say I appreciate because he is an ethical stat gatherer. He could have stat padded all of his numbers. If you look at his numbers through 5 games, they're stupid. That's the best way I can put it without going overboard. They're stupid. They are stupid numbers. Video game numbers doesn't even do it. And he didn't even play in the second half against Portland State. I'm pretty sure he sat the second half against Utah State. Guy's really, really good. I'm excited to see how our Hawaii defense steps up to the plate against a really, really talented Boise State offense.
Yeah, I think Mina Kime said it best. She's like, if I were to open this app, referring to Twitter, and someone posted like Ashton Jeanty put up like 400-something yards and 5 touchdowns, I'd believe it at this point because he's just been so incredible against their game at Utah State. Boise State coming out on top 62-30. So if you were to go with what the lines are for this Saturday's game at Hawaii, Boise State, they covered both and covered the over or the total by themselves. Ashton Jeanty in that game, 186 yards and 3 touchdowns with a 75-yarder as his longest in that game. Now, Utah State, obviously, they've had to change right before the season started with their head coach and that situation going there right now. So they're not the same Utah State that we saw like a couple of seasons ago. But Boise State just proving to be that dominant. And you bring up a good point about seeing NFL talent because actually while I was driving in, I'm like, part of it, I think fans would still want to come just because I remember, and I still say it till this day, I remember being at Aloha Stadium and watching Reggie Bush run all over Hawaii at USC. And it's still, even though you're cheering for the team that's on the losing end and just getting dominated by this incredible talent at running back, it's still something that you will remember because we are all collectively fans of the NFL.
You appreciate the greatness.
Yeah, we're all fans of the NFL, and to see that, and you never know. Again, that's why they play the games. Boise State's coming into town. The fact that Hawaii is at home, I feel like we at least have as small of a chance it might be to win straight up. I feel like we at least have something in our favor. You tell me we're going to go at Boise State, I'm like, yeah, there is absolutely zero chance. Ashton Jeanty is going to have to hurt his foot walking into the stadium or something, and Maddox Madsen needs to break his arm, or all these things would have to be crazy for Hawaii to beat Boise in Boise. But Boise coming to Hawaii, playing on our home, where Hawaii, it's quite obvious, has done exponentially better at home than they ever do on the road. The records reflect that. You at least give yourself a glimmer of hope, a chance to walk out the goalpost, down Waialae, maybe take it to Waialae Country Club. If anything, throw it in the golf course there.
Anything
you give yourself a chance here.
You need to give yourself a chance. You're right. on the road, you don't feel very good about this Hawaii team right now, especially against a nationally ranked unit. Now, at home, Hawaii's a totally different team, and they show that week in, week out, year in, year out that it's hard to play in TC Ching. I'm curious about how our stadium impacts opposing teams as well, because Boise State's used to playing in these big time games now. Is it going to be weird to be in the on-campus structure that is TC Ching Complex? Can the fans make an impact? And like you said, when you get to play at home, things get a little bit weirder, a little bit more in your favor. And I mean, goodness gracious, we saw it this past weekend. All you need is one special day, and all of a sudden you have a memory of a lifetime for a certain for a certain program.
Yeah, I wish Ashton Genty came off as more high maka though, because he did say a quote about like with NIL and stuff going on. He says that it's more important to him about like this lasting legacy. You know, playing somewhere like Boise State. Even
He's
though
so likable.
I know he's so likable. Even though Boise State traditionally, what we're used to, has been good. They're nowhere near like your typical, or obviously not because they're not in a P5, but they're not like your P5 schools. But Ashton Genty's still very humble. He's like, it's not about like the money right now. He just wants to like set this legacy. And like you said, doesn't stat pad when he could. But I wish it was more high maka because then maybe he'll be, you know, like turned off by the locker rooms that the visiting team has to change over here. But he's just going to kind of do his thing. And I still encourage fans to come out. There's still a chance. You want to be in the stadium when Hawaii upsets Boise State and rush the field. You kind of, to look cooler on social media, you kind of need to have a lot of people rushing the field.
Yeah,
you know?
I mean, you can't have like
I'm
4,000
sure if
people.
Craig Angelis, you know, since he's listening to us right now, he's like, don't encourage it. But no, we're not the official station. So
Listen, I'm not encouraging it. I am just simply suggesting that is what happens when you typically upset a top 25 team as an unranked unit in football. That's all. That is all.
We're saying.
I am only stating the obvious.
Yeah.
I am not suggesting it.
All right, but coming up this Saturday again against Boise State, there it is Hawaii Heroes Night. So all first responders, including police officers, firefighters, paramedics, and lifeguards will be honored. And all first responders will receive a 30% discount off of tickets. So that's good. So get out your tickets now. UH Marketing will be giving out 1,000 Hawaii Heroes commemorative keychains, along with 500 white and UH branded plastic fire helmets to the student section. That's pretty cool. And Heineken will distribute 2,500 foam shakas to fans at Gate 2. So if you want your foam shaka courtesy of Heineken, be sure to head there early to Gate 2. Again, game though is at 5 o'clock p.m. So an hour that we're used to, and you can watch it on CBS Sports Network. All right, again, throughout the week, we'll give you even more extensive preview of that matchup between Hawaii and Boise State. I know Michael's going to go out to practice one of these days, and we'll hear from some coaches and players and whatnot. But for now, we're going to tailor it for another day, this football and Boise State conversation. When we come back, we will get you caught up with what you may have missed in high school football over the weekend on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network.
Wake Up in the Den with Ku'ulei Agbayani on the Hawai'i Sports Radio Network, 95.1 FM and AM 760.
Welcome back to Wake Up in the Den. Ku'ulei Agbayani, Paul Brecht, and Michael Lescaro. All right, want to get into some high school football and stuff that you may have missed. Going to go back first to our game of the week last week, Friday, between Moanalua and Pro City. Moanalua just being entirely dominant and continuing their undefeated slate so far, beating Pro City 55-8. If you guys missed that and you want to listen to some fun football, shout out to Paul Brecht and Kyle Galdera, where they still keep the broadcast, and it's quite entertaining and still easy to listen to despite the blowout that happened on Friday night. So be sure you guys listen to that on demand at hawaiisportsradio.com or wherever you get your podcast. If you guys want to, a player from any of the teams, or you want to listen to something else in traffic, you can always listen to our play-by-play broadcast on demand. Again, just go check it out, whether it be high school or HPU, which we will have coming up in just a second. But before we get into the breakdown of that game, first, want to let you guys hear from our grinder of the game in Kalino Judalena for Moanalua, who rushed for 114 yards and 3 touchdowns, earning him our player of the game, which we dubbed the Timmy T's grinder of the game. So here is what Kalino had to say following that dominant win over Pro City.
Congratulations on this win.
Thank you.
You guys are still on top of the OA, so what's it like to come in here and get the dub?
It feels good. We just have to put in some work. We have to put in some work and just work on the little things, get closer as a team, and just bond.
Talk about the offense, because you guys really put up a lot of points.
Yeah, the offense is good. We have a good sized lineman. They're good. We also got good QB, and then our skills are super good. Jace Barang, Kaisen, and La'a. And then we have number.
But the defense also came up with big plays, right? Talk about the turnovers.
Oh, the turnovers was good. We had number 10. His name is
Sean.
Yeah, he did good. Number 1, Tyson. He did good too. And then our D-line as well was super good.
How big was that touchdown to score at the end of the first half?
It was good. We just needed that little jump start in the beginning. Yeah.
All right. How are you guys going to use this win going forward?
We just got to focus on the next opponent. Focus on Leilehua, because we know they're like one of the top teams also in the D1 right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Congrats, man.
Thank you.
And that was our Michael Lescaro with our Timmy T's grinder of the game from Moanalua. Kalino Judalena, again, rushed for 114 yards and 3 touchdowns in Namenehune win over the Chargers of Pro City 55-8, and continuing their dominance in the OIA Division 1. All right, guys, I was in here manning the board for the studio, but just some of your quick takeaways from that game, and does Moanalua have the chance to potentially win it for the OIA?
Yeah, they're going to have to get past this weekend first. I'm glad Kalino's mentioned Leilehua, because that's their opponent this weekend, and Leilehua got a big one against Waianae, a team that probably should have beat Moanalua if there wasn't for some last-minute heroics by their kicker and the win, and Junalena having a big run to set up that kick. But yeah, Leilehua should be in the top 15 of the Scoring Live power rankings this weekend, so are coming out later today, so that's a big one. But yeah, I mean, Moanalua, they have a chance to win the OIA title. There's definitely some things that they can get better at, though. I want to give a special shout out to Pro City, though, for delaying the start of that mercy rule. It wasn't happy for on our end, because we kind of wanted to get there as soon as possible. But shout out Coach Robin Kami for coaching his boys up. They did force I think a pair of turnover on downs, as well as scoring a touchdown and getting a 2-point conversion. So they've been blown out in some games, but they've always put points up. So I'm glad for that.
They never stopped playing. That was something that both Kyle and I took away, was that from start to finish, even when things did not go their way, and there were plenty of moments where things did not go the Chargers' way on Friday night, they came out on the very next drive, whether it be offensive or defensively, and the effort was there, the communication a lot of times was there, and at the end of the day, they were just out-talented, and that's okay. That happens at the high school level all of the time. Moanalua is a very good team. Like Michael said, are there things to clean up for Namenehune? Absolutely. There are many, many moments where you look at it and you're like, if you want to get to where they want to get to, you need to be able to play the full 4 quarters. You needed to be able to not have the penalties that go back and set you back, especially against the team in Pearl City that you were better than. Overall, Chase Barang, that dude, he is a monster. And then Kalino Judalena he's a bowling ball, man. Like, there were so many moments where Kyle and I thought he was going to go down, not at first contact, but once there was 1, 2, 3 defenders from Pearl City wrapped up around him, and he just kept his legs churning, going, and running strong. And I thought that was really, really impressive because it was clear Namenehune, they like to go to the air. They want to throw the ball around. They have a really solid quarterback in Isaac Harney, who distributed the ball well on Friday night. But to be able to not be just one-dimensional, to be able to go onto the ground and have a guy like Judalena who can go out there and pick up 4, 5, 6, 7 yards on every single carry is a massive, massive weapon for Moanalua to have going forward. I'm interested to see how they end up because the talent is there, the ceiling is there. Can they clean up the little things, though, that are going to matter against teams like Lelehua coming up this weekend?
Yeah, and let's give you a quick update on the OIA Division 1 standings. Moanalua at the top as they sit undefeated for now in OIA League play, and Lelehua right behind them, and Radford each at 3-1. Kailua and Waianae both sitting at 2-2. Nanakuli and Aiea 1-3, and then Pearl City still looking for their first win of the season, not just league play, but like we said, at least the Chargers, they're well coached in the sense that, hey, they won't stop playing and will still continue to battle even if they're getting essentially blown out. All right, when we come back, we will change it, and well, not change it up, but we will get you caught up with some of the big games that happened in the OIA Open division over the weekend, and also a little bit in the ILH2 that could, I don't know, maybe mean, I don't know if I'm getting ahead of myself in saying we could maybe potentially shake up the Scoring Live Pyro rankings. I just like to create drama, so that's what we're going to say. Maybe ever so slightly. Anywho, got to step aside. We'll be right back on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network.
Great thing.
Wake Up in the Den with Ku'ulei Agbayani on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network, 95.1 FM and AM 760.
Welcome back to all of you, the beautifulest of all the beautiful people, alongside Michael Escaro, DJ Paulie B, who wanted to remix there for just a little bit. I'm Kule Agbayani. We will forgive DJ Paulie B because he is still recovering from waking up at 3 a.m. to watch his Jets play yesterday and just staying up all the way through. So we're still a little bit recovering off of the team no sleep, which I will have to do as well, actually, coming up this weekend. So we will see how that happens. But, at least I would be getting up and actually believing that the Bears have a chance. So that's nice because they came off of a good win over the weekend or yesterday. So you know what? At least I have something to look forward to where I would just open my eyes. All right, we're already getting blown out by like the second quarter. Time to go back to sleep. So we'll see what happens.
But we're going to beat Boise and you're going to be up anyways, Koo.
That is true. The party will not stop. And I'll just actually, to be honest, if we beat Boise, the party would definitely continue overnight and just, I don't know, because I don't know how many adult beverages I would have and then pass out. So
if Boise wins, I think me and Paul will probably realize we might have to carry the show the following Monday because Koo needs to recover.
Yeah.
That's
okay. We're always ready.
I can recover in that time. Sunday will just be the recovery.
But you know who didn't win, Koo? Your alma mater.
Yeah. Well, you know who else that didn't win? The people of St. Louis too, so makes it feel that much better. All right, taking a look at our overall scoreboard from this past weekend in high school, as you guys can see it on our YouTube channel. Before we get into the breakdown of that Mililani and Campbell game, because I had a chance to watch some of it, and I know Michael was there on site, and want to bring up that ILH game though, or Kamehameha Kapalama coming out on top over St. Louis, 31-28. Pono Kahaole Leo scored the go-ahead touchdown with 18 seconds left in regulation to win it for the Warriors. So, as I alluded to before we went to the break, possible shakeup in the Scoring Live power rankings because the Warriors were able to beat the Crusaders, which the Crusaders were ranked higher than the Warriors in the latest Scoring Live power ranking. So we could see something with a change up over there. Also happening over the weekend, we were talking a little bit about Lelehua in OIA Division 1. They were able to beat Waianae 17-3 on Friday. Another interesting game in Division 2, Kaiser 24-12 over Roosevelt. Kapolei, which is what started as kind of a close game right up the road here from us in the studio between OIA Open Division teams, Kapolei and Farrington. It was pretty close to begin with, but then Kapolei able to pull away 21-10. The Hurricanes over the Governors. Tama Amisone still continuing to be a phenomenal quarterback that we expected him to be. Also in the ILH Pac-5, who snuck into the Scoring Live power rankings. Not snuck in, but deservedly so, finally broke into the top 15 in the power rankings. The Damien was just too powerful for them. Damien beating the Wolfpack 48-23. Also on Friday, going over to Division 2, McKinley. We need to give a shout out to McKinley, beating Kaimuki 9-7 for, what was it, Michael? Their first win since 2019.
The first win since the COVID pandemic. Wow.
Woo!
That's actually great. Like, now that I sit here and I actually hear it out loud and I think about it, that is an insane amount of time. And as somebody who's been part of a program who has been multi-years without a win, I can't imagine the elation and the joy at the end of the night when the clock finally hits zeros and you see your side up on the winning side. Awesome for our friends over at McKinley.
And you know what? Didn't we called a couple of McKinley games here on our station? So I think maybe we're a little good luck for the Tigers. Yeah. Which again, you can listen to on demand for all of our McKinley Tigers fans. But yes, McKinley, the Tigers beating the Bulldogs 9-7, first win since 2019. So I mean, like you said, when you hear that final whistle blow, I mean, the pure elation, new head coach as well. So all the best to the Tigers over there getting their first win. No surprise, Kahuku just shutting out Waipahu 48-0 and continuing their dominance in that sense. And Waipahu, just unfortunate time to be in the OIA Open Division as they are clearly going through the rebuilds because they just lost a bunch of players to either graduation or the unofficial transfer portal that is in high school football as we know it. But nonetheless, we'll continue to follow the Marauders. All right, want to get into one of the biggest games because it was a matchup between two undefeated schools in the Open Division, and that is between Campbell and Mililani. Yes, my alma mater. But you know what? Kind of like what we were talking about with Boise State and that team and Ashton Genty coming into town. I can't be mad at it. You're just watching greatness that is this Campbell squad, and of course their quarterback Jaren Keave Sangapolutele, 6 touchdown passes. And I tell you what, though, like, shout out, part of the reason why, and Jaren, to his credit, does this and gives his receivers all the credit as well, that some of those connections I saw, especially with Sangapolutele and Zayden Alvier Costa, I mean, that kid was like catching like everything, and just some of these plays that they were making, but also six of those touchdowns went to 4 different receivers. And the first half, to Mililani's credit, it was really back and forth. I mean, it felt like they were just exchanging scores and touchdowns. And then the second half, Campbell letting in, their defense just being shut out on Mililani, letting in just 1 score while the Sabres were able to punch in 3 of their own touchdowns. But it was phenomenal. Before I get Michael's and Paul's takeaway, though, want to let you guys hear from Campbell's starting quarterback, Jaren Keave Sangapolutele, and what he had to say to our Michael Lescaro following that win.
Congratulations on this. I believe, Mililani's had Campbell's number for a while now. I think last win against them was 2011.
Yes, sir.
But what does it mean to come back here to get this monkey off your guys' backs?
First and foremost, I just say it's all Jesus, my Lord and Savior. And also, I just think it's a testament to how hard we work. The boys, we're always preparing, in film, in the weight room and on the field. I think it's just a team effort. My O-line was giving me the time. My receivers is getting open, of course. And, I just had to make the easy throws. And, it's just all glory to God always.
But Mililani made you guys work for it, back and forth. First time I ever seen you guys in a shootout, kind of like that. Talk about your team just to always answer their attacks and all that.
Defense was making great stops. Offense, we turned over the ball one too many times, but, at least our defense kept us in the game. My O-line, just got to give them the credit as well, helping me out, helping it make me easy, and, my receivers as well, just getting open.
You had that touchdown to end the third quarter. How big was that play?
That was big. They had just scored. They're down 1. Just to go back up one more touchdown, it kind of helped our spirit, and, the team was riled up, and we were just ready to keep going.
Special season, you guys are 6-0 right now. How do you guys maintain this?
Definitely it's just keeping our heads down and just staying focused, we just gotta go back like we didn't win, just go back, look at our mistakes. We take the dub for 24 hours, but then, we go back, we just keep learning.
And that was our Michael Lescaro talking to Campbell quarterback Jaren Keave Sangapolutele following their 41-20 win over Mililani on Saturday night in what was really the build-up. We built it up last week that they made top 2 teams in the Scoring Live power rankings, and here they are going to face each other. And like I said before we heard that interview, the first half was really back and forth, and I was like, all right, Mililani, they're really keeping up with Campbell and just the adjustments. And the second half, want to also make note that, do you know exactly what happened to Keikoa Kung? I know that he was out of the game and then had to be replaced by Dallas Carter to play for Mililani under center, but I kind of missed it in the Spectrum broadcast that I was watching. I just know that Dallas Carter came in for Mililani and Keikoa Kung was out of the game relatively early, but I'm not sure if you caught exactly what happened there, Michael.
Yeah, not sure if he got injured or not, but his play hasn't been the best in the recent weeks. But Dallas Carter coming in from the JV squad, he's class of 2027. He's almost kind of getting a similar start to when we saw from Dylan Gabriel being trusted, put in there. But I know there was some big commotion pregame because Keeney McMillan was in uniform.
Oh yeah.
But I believe that was more because he was participating in the senior festivities afterwards. But I do have it on a source that he's not even going to be medically cleared, not for at least another week or so, minimum. So when he's going to return, that's a big question mark. But you watch that game, and you think, hey, if Keeney was in this game, scoreboard might be a little bit different because they were hanging in there. Shout out to Kahana Travis twins because they came to play. And Tuan Petaway had a big catch and run to set up, I think, the second or first touchdown. So Mililani, credit Coach Viviatata. I know, and co-head coach there with Rod York. I know in the offseason, people were like, man, this guy's a drill sergeant. But in these games, when on paper you should not be competing like the way they are, they overperform at the start of their first half. And I think eventually Campbell kind of wore them down because there's only so much you can do when a quarterback and receiver is getting after it. And shout out Zayden Alviar Costa, who kind of showed up in the fourth quarter or second half. I count that last play of the third quarter as a fourth quarter where he got 2 touchdown passes, and that was kind of the nail in the coffin for a Mililani squad that was scoring. You know, they were in it, you know. But yeah, Campbell, they're on fire right now. They have an easy game this week at Waipahu in the K-Knife Classic. And I'll be honest, the Marauders have never won the K-Knife in my time as Marauder, so that ain't happening.
It definitely isn't going to happen
but
this
Campbell,
year.
they had a 16 game losing streak to Mililani. I didn't even believe it was that long because their last win over Mililani was September 16, 2011. So we talk about McKinley having a while since the last one. Mililani, so they not only did they couldn't beat Mililani when they had Dylan Gabriel, Mackenzie Milton, but even Jaron Morikawa, for all the true Mililani OGs that we remember back in the day. They had Campbell's number, so good for them to kind of break out and get that. But again, if Kenny McMillan was in the game, different story, because I've seen Mililani and Campbell go in a shootout where I think they played, it was like 55-33. So, but yeah, Campbell's got an easy week this week against Waipahu, and then next week against Kahuku at Kahuku, who also has had Jaron's number. That's where you really can step up and cement yourself in there.
Ooh, lots to look forward to. And I'm glad you brought that up, though, about Kenny McMillan, because you're right. Like, considering what we saw in that game and for it to go that back and forth, you just have your true starting quarterback in there. It could be a lot different, and their connections could have been similar. I mean, and you bring up the Kana Travis twins. I mean, you put them, and then you have Keeney, and we could see a totally different ball game. But nonetheless, Campbell, all the credit. Again, like 41-20 over Mililani, Alviar Costa, Abang Perez, and even on defense, someone that you had interviewed when we did the Campbell game, in Zachariah Alualu-Tuyo Lemotu. I mean, he had himself a game as well defensively, a couple of sacks, and just proving and pushing his dominance over Mililani. So this Campbell team is going to continue to be exciting to watch, but still tall tasks at hand for the Sabres.
Man, I'm excited for the rest of the season. I joked with you guys that when the reports were coming out that Keeney was dressed, I was going to drive over and try and watch the game, just because that's exactly the thought, right? These were two teams who, Campbell, yeah, their offense is great. Their defense has finally stepped up to be that same side, right? To be able to compete. And Mililani, to their credit this year, and it's a big reason why you continue to see them sit at that number 2 ranking in those top 3 rankings, is because even with injuries, even with not as elite quarterback play as you might be used to if you are a Trojans fan, they're competing week in, week out. They make other teams look silly, and the amount of talent just in general for Mililani is incredible. Really excited to see what their ceiling can be should Keeney come back and be full go before the end of the year.
Yeah, in just a few minutes, so I just continue. I know we hear it a lot and we say it a lot, but if you guys watch that game, though, I mean, there is a reason why Jaron Kealve Sangapolutele is the top
special,
quarterback
dude.
in the state. I mean, just the release and the way he moves, like, while he's running and can pass the ball. And I think for when you're that good of a quarterback, it looks so easy to throw on the run. And the way Jaron just does it so smoothly, like, that's what makes him stand out to me. And it's something that you don't see from a lot of quarterbacks. Again, when it's done beautifully like he does it, and when his receivers are in the right position and can catch the football on the other end, it doesn't stand out as much. But, you know, for someone that watches the game and, like, watches quarterbacks and all that stuff, I mean, what I saw on Saturday, because I feel like this was, aside from the game that we covered, which, I mean, it was that 50-7 blowout over Farrington. But when you're playing a really solid team and a good defense like Mililani, and just the way that the Sabres and Sangapolutele moved and passed and just found his receivers and how they got open, it was like, I mean, some of these deep balls, I'm like, how in the world did it land right there? And then to the receiver's credit, like, how in the world did they catch that ball? So, I mean, Campbell just firing on all cylinders, and it's just been incredible to cover. I also want to point out that something, I think, Paul, you tweeted it, and It's pretty cool because I think people like Michael and I are kind of spoiled because we've been covering some of these quarterbacks for so long. But you had mentioned like, wow, it's cool to say that like I'm going to be covering like this future NFL quarterback in his high school season. Where like for us, we've seen Tua and and Marcus and everything here. And then too, obviously to some extent, like Mackenzie Milton, made it fit really far and could potentially have been in the NFL, but suffered that injury. And then Dylan Gabriel, future is still bright. So there's all these quarterbacks that we've been fortunate to cover here from high school and see them move on to do really well in college and then potentially at the professional level. But hey, Paul, this is kind of like didn't be your first OG player and other players. There's going to be other players that we could potentially see, but obviously the quarterback position is like the most featured and highlighted as they move on to college and the NFL. So this could potentially be your first guy that you cover, and then when he's in the NFL, you'll be like, I covered that guy in high school.
I feel pretty good about saying that. I wouldn't have tweeted it if I didn't, because that's a lot of pressure to put on a kid as well. And obviously, Jaron doesn't care what Paul Brecht has to say about what his career ceiling is. But I really do believe that where you watch him play, the creativity in his game, the natural ability, the talent, the arm strength, the processing, the athleticism to escape the pocket. He had a jump throw in the Campbell Mililani game that was just stupid, like a jump throw over a defender and perfectly placed. It's those things that you watch and it's like, some players are college football players, but then you watch some and you're like, oh, that's a dude who could be special at college. And then there are guys who you look at and you're like, well, if things really work out correctly, that's a pro. And with Jaron, it's hard not to feel that way.
Can you guys imagine, like, per capita, that would be insane if in the future Jaron or any quarterback, who knows, maybe Keeney comes back and he's like even that much better when he's healthy. Like, imagine if we get another potential starting quarterback in the NFL. Fortunately, not from the same high school again, but like just, and who knows, we could even see Dylan, with the future still bright for Dylan Gabriel as well. But just per capita wise, like continuing to see the success in that quarterback position, the most coveted position in football. And obviously it shows in how much they get paid in the NFL and in college. But it's just like how Hawaii can produce when it felt like it doesn't seem that long ago when it was only about the linemen for Hawaii. And now like this quarterback position here is this is where big schools come to recruit.
Yeah, the ratio for quarterbacks from Hawaii making the NFL is pretty, like I said, per capita. So with that being said, stay home, play for the local team because you're going to make your money in the NFL.
Thank you. Yes. So I like to end that conversation. Perfectly said there by you, Michael Escaro. Speaking of the NFL, we'll come back to close it out with some NFL news as we'll only have a few minutes left, but nonetheless, we'll have a lot of fun closing it out here on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network.
Wake Up in the Den with Ku'ulei Agbayani on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network, 95.1 FM and AM 760.
Welcome back to Wake Up in the Den. Ku'ulei Agbayani, Paul Brecht, and Michael Lescaro. We only got a few minutes left of the show, but want to talk some NFL, even though I feel like I might be the only one that wants to
Football's stupid anyway, guys.
But like Michael always says, if it's only out of the three of us, only one of our teams will likely
always
win
go.
throughout the weekend.
No.
So-
I said we won't go 0-3 collectively.
yeah,
Yeah,
so-
we never go 0-3, which is kind of impressive. Michael is correct on that.
Yeah, but when I woke up to see that the Jets lost the early morning game, I was like, all right, well then, the Bears were looking good against the Panthers, beating the Panthers 36-10. I don't want to hear no talk about how the Panthers aren't good and how a lot of their defensive players were out. Who cares? It's still the NFL, and the Bears were able to. That's the thing. At least they won convincingly. It's not like it was a close game. 36-10 is like a legit beating in the NFL. So Caleb Williams over 300 yards for once. He actually contributed to my fantasy football team, which was nice. And even though I forgot to change out some players because of we hit the bye week, and
Yeah, your
I
opponent,
totally.
I'm sure, is pretty happy about that.
Oh, that's right. I was playing you this week.
I was going to say, for people who look behind the curtain, I am playing Ku'ulei Agbayani in fantasy this week. I was very thankful for her quarterback and tight end being hurt and on a bye,
Yeah.
I think.
And it's the funny thing, and why I'm chuckling and why I brought this even up to Paul last week is I purposely draft, part of my strategy is to draft players for my bye week players. And more so, I have Laporta for the Detroit Lions, and he was my first tight end that I drafted. And then I picked up Kyle Pitts for the bye week that Laporta would have, and this was the week. And I totally forgot to actually follow up with my strategy that I play because the Falcons played on Thursday, and I forgot to switch them out, and Kyle Pitts actually put up a decent amount of points in fantasy football. So my whole strategy that goes into drafting in fantasy football just completely went out the window this week because I spaced on it, and that could have made the difference. And then not being and I think in our league I think I have Baker Mayfield on my bench.
If it makes you feel better, I have Joe Burrow on my bench. So Joe Burrow had 34 points.
But
so.
you don't have someone on your bench that, again, you didn't keep in mind that they played on Thursday, that your quarterback was out. And I'm like, I could have just put in anybody. And I'm like, what is fantasy football is stupid.
Yeah. If it makes you feel any better, I went against Lamar Jackson in 2 of my leagues.
That's a rough day.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't make me feel any better that my strategy has failed.
Not to dig it in any further, but Koo's down only 10 points as well. So literally just one of those players being in would have her up probably by 5, 10, 15 right now. She still has a chance to win, though, by the way. Xavier Worthy left for her, and for me, Alvin Kamara. Depending on how tonight's game goes, who knows? We'll see the speed of Mr. Worthy there.
Either way, at least I won in my league that has a lot of money on it, so that's a good thing. That's the main fantasy thing that won, because I needed to make up for my not so good start that I've had in that league so far. But yes, today's game between the Chiefs and the Saints. Kansas City, the 5.5 point favorite over the Chiefs, and playing at Arrowhead. I believe both Kyle and I actually went the other way in our quick picks, didn't we? I think we both took the Saints to cover. Now, it's hard to believe that the Chiefs will lose in Arrowhead, but I don't know. They haven't been like your usual dominant. I believe most of, if not all of their games, just barely squeaking out one score wins and very closely. So we're going with the Saints tonight. But at the end of this week, though, all I can say is at least the Bears are finally turning the corner, and Caleb Williams is just figuring his way, like our girl Caitlin Clark in the WNBA, where now we're starting to see the difference in him start to make that turn. So that's all I'm hoping for now.
Your 3 wins are against teams with only 3 wins combined.
You got your face.
You know why we're taking New Orleans tonight? When Devontae Adams comes in WWE style, right in the middle, right at halftime, they're down by 7. And you see Devontae Adams just coming out on the field.
Or you have the shatter, the stone. Is it Stone Cold? Yeah.
Exactly. when he has a WWE entrance to come help the Saints beat the Chiefs as a gift from the Raiders.
And then him and like Derek Carr like dabbing each other up and like, let's go win this. I like that. Nonetheless, we'll talk more NFL and everything else throughout the week. But for Michael Liscaro, Paul Brecht, I'm Kule Agbayani. Mahalo for listening. Bye.
KOIA lives here. KGU AM, K236CR. Honolulu is the Hawaii Sports Radio Network on 95.1 FM and AM 760.